19 after 7 is our time here on Sky 99.5 FM. And we get into some news making in the second hour of the Breakfast Roundtable. On the line with us, attorney at law and member of the Police Service Commission, and also constitutional law expert Martin George. Good morning to you, Martin George.
Hi, good morning to you, Jessamy.
Morning, Mr. George.
Good morning to your panel and good morning to your listeners.
Martin George, you would have seen some of the latest developments with regard to the Jack Warner story. This morning in the newspapers, there is a political analyst saying that story could affect what is happening with our local elections, especially as we're hearing reports of and seeing alleged evidence that Mr. Warner may well have been funding the UNC during the election period in 2010 and even beyond that. Yes?
Yes. Well, the thing is, Jesse, I always confess that I am not privy to the inner workings of the minds of politicians, but I couldn't for the life of me imagine why the Prime Minister would have come out and made such a statement to basically provoke this issue, unless, of course, it is that assessing the ripple effect and the backlash from the FIFA scandal, she felt it necessary to, as we say in the local parlance, take in front. So I don't know if that was the intention, but certainly it has given Mr. Warner such a wide avenue now to ramage, again, using the colloquial, and it really, I think, now puts the government on the back foot, because the point is, once he keeps producing little bits of evidence and, all the scintilla, of documentation to show there was some financing link, then, of course, the government's credibility, I think, would keep taking a hit. Of course, we would recall that the Prime Minister very cleverly chose her words by saying that I never received, payments. So, of course, there's that. But at the end of the day, I think the public will just simply view that as semantics. You're playing mind games with words, because at the end of the day, when one looks at the polls that you see on the television or you hear on the radio, I think the general public is of the view, and it has always been very widely accepted, that there was some financial input from Mr. Warner in the government's program for, trying to get into power when they were campaigning for the 2010 election. Apart from the financial input, no one can ever doubt the tremendous personal input that Mr. Warner made. If you recall, on the campaign trail, he was the most vocal, vociferous, and versatile speaker that they had at all the meetings. Mr. Warner was everywhere. He was leading the charge. So you are inextricably bound with him. And there is, it really flies in the face of all logic and common sense to seek to deny that. Maybe you can try to put a different spin on it now, but, I thought that the denial appeared on the face of it, and I said, to the greatest of respect, it did appear a bit disingenuous, and it may have been, I guess, possibly as a, forestalling mechanism to say, well, look, I'm taken in front in the circumstances.
An interesting sidebar, Mr. George, is that when we opened the lines earlier on, a number of callers came in seemingly fairly sympathetic to Mr. Warner. They're saying, he looks beaten, he looks defeated, as the case might be. And even though we all have our weaknesses and we all have the sides that people don't know about, as the case might be, do you think, this is more of a psychological thing, really, but do you think any kind of groundswell of sympathy for Mr. Warner, seeing that international media is after him, the local media is after him, as the case might be, that you're having people saying, I'm feeling a little sorry for Mr. Warner?
Well, I think, Edison, if we analyze it correctly, if there is any groundswell of sympathy, it may be for a different reason, and I'll explain. I think the public in Trinidad and Tobago, knowing fully well the extent of Mr. Warner's contribution to getting the UNC and the PP into power. And as I say, it's not just financial. Even when they were in power, the Prime Minister's greatest defender was Mr. Warner
Yes,
in
indeed.
Parliament.
Yes.
Nobody could ever say anything about the Prime
Yes.
Minister. Mr. Warner was her number one defender. So I think what the public is looking at is the question of which Mr. Warner clearly has expressed and which he feels. You could see that that is what greatest motivator. He doesn't feel as betrayed by FIFA as he feels personally betrayed by the Prime Minister and the government. And I think that is what is really firing him. And that is what I think may cause any sympathy from the public, because the public knows you cannot deny that this man was front and center, an abject lesson for us in terms of how politics functions. Because, you know, one minute you are my best friend, and then next minute, you know, I mean, you are throwing me to the wolves. And I'm not sure that is going down too well with, you know, people who are independent-minded and try to be fair in circumstances. You know, I think they're looking at it and they're saying, no, this can't be right, because all of you who embraced this man, you know, you would recall Mr. Jack Warner was one of the greatest proponents of trying to reach across the racial divide. Mr. Jack Warner was somebody who could go in any home in the country and be welcomed. He could, you know, mix with everybody. He was particularly loved among the East Indian community because of all the good work he was doing and helping the government and helping the party to get into power. So it really, I mean, for me personally, you know, when I analyze it, I think that if people are to feel sympathy for him, it may be on that basis that, you know, to see, well, this is how you are treating him, regardless of what he did with FIFA, because that's on an international level. We are talking about what he did for you on a local level, and then now basically you spitting him out and, you know, trampling on him like this. I think that aspect of it is a little bit disappointing.
Martin George, as you make the point that in the minds of most Trinbagonians, it's a separate thing. Jack Warner at FIFA and Jack Warner, the politician in Trinidad and Tobago, two entirely different people. Whatever he did with FIFA has nothing really to do with us. But look at how much he did for us. People have that going on in their heads right now.
I think also that is a factor, because as I've said, you know, we in our rush to crucify man was hailed as the best performing minister. He is the one who organized and got the Aranguez interchange done. You know, he got so many things done while he was a minister. He was known as this person who would help people in his community, organize scholarships for them and stuff like that. So I'm saying, hey, listen, if he did wrong with FIFA, yes, let him face those consequences. But you see the rush to demonize him generally, I find it a little bit disturbing, and it is not a good reflection on the state of our politics and the behavior of our politics.
It seems that Amsala from the ILP has resigned as of yesterday or day before.
Sorry, Edison.
Well, we are getting a positive one from Trinidad and Tobago in Trinidad and Tobago. Do you